gentlemen, I'm the Kodiak, and I just woke up, which means it is time to talk about the draft lottery. And let me just say, I know this is not a football video, but I feel like overall sports philosophy is important to discuss, especially because this is a conversation that I assume people will always be having about the NFL, whether or not they should implement a draft lottery. And the answer to that is a resounding no. The Hawks just won the draft lottery today. So if you're watching this at a later date, it is May 12th, 2024. The Atlanta Hawks just won the first overall pick. And last year in the NHL, the Chicago Blackhawks won the first overall pick. And you should not be able to, this is talking about Atlanta's case, you should not be able to have a shot at the title and first overall in the exact same season. That's just absolutely ludicrous. And I'm making this as a fan whose favorite hockey team has benefited from a draft lottery and basketball team as well. The Magic got the pick that allowed them to draft Paolo Banchero. The Avalanche won the draft lottery in 2013 and went for Nathan MacKinnon, which was viewed as an egregious pick at the time because top defenseman Seth Jones was available, and look how that winded up. And one of my favorite teams is the argument on why the draft lottery works, because in 2017, the Avalanche finished with one of the worst regular season records ever. But in that summer of 2017, they were able to draft Cale Makar. And my issue with all of these is that, you know, all these drawings are theatrical and they're an event in themselves. But they do all these drawings behind closed doors. And even when they've done live drawings, does anybody actually believe that they're doing live drawings? Heck no. And these are leagues with $1 billion at stake. They have TV rights to sell. They have stars to market. Do you think the NHL was going to let the best prospect since McDavid go to Anaheim or go to Columbus? Wow, a struggling franchise in Chicago for a decade in a massive market with a massive fan base gets the best prospect since McDavid. And I can respect NBA's lottery system a little bit more than the NHL's, mainly because the winners seem a lot less fishy. Like, for example, the Rangers winning the draft lottery back-to-back years in hockey. Like, okay, yeah, give me a break, bro. But there's no doubt in my mind that the league, I'm talking about the NBA, would like to pull some strings and generate maximum revenue. Like, for example, they probably would have preferred Zion go to New York, and they probably would have preferred that Yao Ming went to Chicago, which already had worldwide recognition due to the Michael Jordan brand. But at the end of the day, it's still just not hard to give the worst team the first overall pick. And the majority of teams in sports, they don't even tank. A team like the Pistons, they weren't even tanking. They were just terrible. And the NBA and NHL draft lotteries are the most unfair thing in sports. It's a broken system, and I cannot comprehend why they keep doing it. I understand that it's supposed to prevent teams from tanking, but what about that? It doesn't prevent teams from tanking. Anybody who's not competitive is still going to ship out their best assets to get the best odds at the draft lottery. And I firmly believe that if a team wants to throw a year for a certain player in anything, it can be in football, basketball, or hockey, I firmly believe that if the front office of that team wants to say, all right, yep, we're going to tank for, let's just say some team decided to blow it up for Caleb Williams, I think it should have been in their right to do that. I think if a team in May 2023 was like, all right, we are going to ship out all of our players, we're going to ship out all of our assets, then I think it should have been in their right to do that, because you should, you know, be able to let teams have free will and run their teams as they want. And I'm not saying that they don't. The NFL has a lot more free will than the NBA and NHL does. And it's a lot more rewarding if teams decide to tank. But the problem is players and coaches will never tank. The only people that will tank in professional sports is GMs who know they have a long leash. GMs who, from the top, from the owner, from the VP, from the president of the organization, are like, all right, we're going to give you a long leash. You can, you know, have 3-4 years. You're going to get the chance to rebuild this team. And in year one, if the GM looks at the team and it's not competitive and the roster is terrible, all right, ship out everybody. We are going to rebuild this. We're going to get, you know, try for the draft, best talent in the draft. And yeah, overall, I think that if a team wants to throw a year for a player, because the risks greatly outweigh the rewards, and I understand that. You run the risk of not being able to sell season tickets. You run the risk of, you know, your branding falling down the pegging order if you don't have anybody who really elevates your franchise to that next level currently on your roster. And there is nothing in professional sports that is worse than being middle of the road. But it seems like the NBA and NHL kind of reward teams who are middle of the road. It completely, if you just barely miss the playoffs, or in Atlanta's case, if you made the play in, it greatly, greatly, greatly helps your franchise's long term plans at the expense of the teams that genuinely need a caliber of that talent. And I don't know, it's not to discourage tanking. Like, the draft lottery is supposed to do that, but it doesn't. It's not like the Pistons or Sharks this year were horrible because they felt like it. If the NHL and NBA want to preach parity and competitive balance, then it would give the teams that need the first overall pick the first overall pick. And there is no reason that a playoff caliber team should be able to move up 11 spots to get one guy who could help the franchise's long-term plans so quickly. That is just completely throwing Atlanta a bone. That is completely throwing, in the case of the NHL, Chicago a bone. And I'm just really, really, really upset with how draft lotteries are, because I feel like it completely screws over the teams that are actually bad. And coaches and executives are always fighting for their jobs. And I just think that a draft lottery is super distasteful to the integrity of sports, mainly because it is so easy to rig something like that. Mainly because I do not have any reason to believe that the NHL or NBA runs fair lotteries. So that kind of does it for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.